A Hall of Fame career usually begins modestly, and Cathy Mant's began on the 9-hole Laurelwood Golf Course in Eugene, Oregon. Her parents became members at Eugene Country Club, and Cathy's interest in the game grew. She began playing in the club's junior events, and the first tournament she won was a 4-hole event. Cathy's father would take her out to the course in the evenings after work. A natural athlete, Cathy loved hitting balls on the driving range. She played on the boys' golf team at St. Francis High School and began entering junior events outside of Eugene. In the late 60s, there was no better amateur golfer in the region than Cathy Mant. She won the Southern Oregon Junior Am, Oregon Junior Girls Am, the '68 P&J Women's Am, the Oregon Women's Am 3 times, the Southern Oregon Women's Am twice, and the Oregon Coast Am. She also qualified for 2 U.S. Girls Juniors, 3 U.S. Women's Ams, the Women's Western Amateur, and the Women's Broadmoor Invitational. Attending Arizona State University, she won the 1970 NCAA Women's National Title and was a first-team All-American, winning 6 individual collegiate titles. Cathy played on the LPGA Tour from '76 to '86, playing in 10 U.S. Opens as well as each major on tour. She became very involved in the LPGA player government, serving as a player representative to the board of directors, and was president of the LPGA Tournament Division in 1985. When she finished her LPGA career, Cathy began a full-time teaching career. She's a Class A member of both the LPGA Tour Teaching and Club Professional Division. In 2002, Cathy was named one of Golf for Women's top 50 teachers. She has been the women's golf coach at Georgia State University since 2000 and has been named their conference's Coach of the Year 6 times. She is the winningest coach in Georgia State history, and in 2015, she was selected to coach the U.S. girls team for the Junior Golf World Cup, held that year in Japan. Cathy served on the U.S. Girls Junior Committee for 25 years, receiving the USGA Ike Granger Award in 2014, which recognizes outstanding volunteer service to the game. Looking for an example of giving back to the game? Look no further than Cathy Mant.
So you played on the boys' golf team in high school.
I did.
Girls used to get kind of short shrift sometimes, didn't they? With before the girls' sports became active. What was it like for you? Can you go back there? Were the boys welcoming, or did they were they upset to have a girl on the team, or what?
You know, I really didn't pay attention to that. I was ready to just kind of kick
Oops. We'll let Vinny turn the mic up here again, will you? We got the wrong one.
What was it like? I mean, the guys were great, and I was there to win and to be the best. So I had fun competing, and that's kind of how I grew up. Grew up competing with my brothers in different sports, and when I had a chance to play golf, I was competing with the guys. That's who I grew up playing with.
And as you become a better and better player, you go through transitions. Of course, you go from playing in junior events to high school to college, and then if you're really lucky, you get on the LPGA Tour. Which of those, and then to something else. So which of those transitions was the most challenging for you?
I would say the most challenging was going from playing amateur golf to qualifying for the LPGA Tour. I actually tried 3 or 4 times, missing it by 1 or 2 shots a couple times. That would be the nerves that I didn't handle very well. Knowing where I stood and kind of having a tough time bringing it in. But, I persevered, and I'm very fortunate to have a 10-year career.
And Joanne Washermar, the Hall of Famer here from the LPGA, remembered you as a wonderful player, but also somebody who was really involved in the LPGA itself, and being on a player's representative and helping make the LPGA what it is and has been. So what was that like? I mean, what was that role like?
I was very fortunate to be able to be a part of that and to be a voice, making suggestions and doing things for our players that tried to make our tour better. It was so small, and at that time we had Commissioner Ray Volpe and a staff of about, Joanne, maybe 4 people in the office, and now you look at it and it's huge. And so just being a part of that and watching the growth in women's golf, I was incredibly fortunate, as Joanne, to play with some of the founding members of our organization, Marlene Hagee and Alice Bauer and Marilyn Smith and just to be a part of those people who were there and actually getting a chance to play with them and seeing where the game has come from when they started it.
When I see players who ascend through the junior ranks, I always start wondering, there is that time you have to kind of get pushed out of the nest, and you travel and you go across the country and with some of your friends, and you meet your fellow competitors, and there has to be a learning process in there. And you told me a great story about one of those, a little bit painful, but...
It was a little painful. It was my first national tournament. It was 1966, and I was playing in the U.S. Girls Junior Championship. The championship was being held in Pennsylvania. It was during a plane strike, and so there were 4 girls from Oregon and Washington who enjoyed a 3 or 4 day train ride back east. Christine Jones, a wonderful person and a Hall of Fame member, was our chaperone, and we got to, I think it was Chicago, and she said, look, our train is going to be waiting really long, so we're going to take a bus the rest of the way, which was my first train ride, my first taxi ride, my first bus ride. So we did it, and as we were pulling away, I noticed that my suitcase was there, one of the girls' golf clubs was there, and somebody's overnight case, and I spoke up and went to speak to the driver, and he said, no, it'll be on the next bus, don't worry. So I may not travel, I believed everything he said. So, moving forward very quickly, I had to call my parents after being there for a day and saying I've lost my suitcase. I didn't carry a purse much that time, so I had the traveler's checks that we used to have inside my suitcase. So I was at the U.S. Girls Junior without any clothes except what I was wearing, and without any money. So I had to call them with that. Well, that's fine, we made that work. First round, practice round, first round of qualifying, played, struggled, but still maybe had a chance. Had a wonderful time, met a lot of people who had the same love of the game that I had, and we had fun in our room, had a pillow fight, and we had one alarm clock on the desk table, and it got knocked off, I guess. Anyway, the next morning at 8 o'clock, we received a phone call from the USGA asking if we were okay. I said, yes, I'm fine. Well, why are you calling? And they said, well, we just called to inform you that you've been disqualified from this championship for sleeping in, or whatever. So I lost my money, I lost my clothes, and I got DQ'd for sleeping in. And it was the first hotel room I'd ever been in, and it stays pretty dark in those curtains, and no, it's not like my house. Didn't know about a wake-up call, and anyway, 2 of us were disqualified, and I have to take my hat off to my parents because that could have been, I could have had a wholly different career. That could have been the end of it right there. Well, they actually let me go back and play the next year in LA, so I feel very blessed and thankful.
When you were talking about being honored to play with some of the early members of the LPGA, I know you told me on the phone that Joanne Carter became very close to you, and that is what I just briefly mentioned, one of that memorable round with 2 legends. She was involved, and this turned out to be quite a threesome you had.
Yes, actually, Joanne Carter, Hall of Fame member here, became a mentor of mine. She and her husband, Don, took me under their wing and said, look, we need to help you. We think you got it, but you need some help. And I said, okay. So I would actually go down to Florida. They lived in Palm Beach, and they had an Airstream. That's how they traveled. And so they let me stay in their Airstream. And I'd go down for a week at a time. I did that for 3 or 4 years, I believe. And Joanne liked to sleep in, so we met at 10 at the golf course. We practiced, hit balls. We had lunch, and then would practice. Well, Joanne was going to go have a lesson from Sam Sneed. And her husband, Don, said, I want to talk to Sam to see if he can help you out. And I said, really? Okay. So we went to the course where Sam Sneed played. And Sam gave Joanne a lesson real quickly, and then he watched me, and Mr. Sneed actually teed up the ball for me, and I said, Mr. Sneed, please don't. He was 70 years old at the time. And so the next day, Joanne said, Sam's going to come and play. We're going to play with Sam. He's going to bring a ringer. We're going to bet. We're going to lose, and we're going to pay. And I said, sounds good to me. So, it was a wonderful experience having the opportunity to play with two of the World Golf Hall of Famers. Sam Sneed at 70 years old shot 67. Joanne Carter shot, she played great. I'm not going to say I did, but I learned an awful lot from it. And it was a memory that I'll never forget. And I also watched Sam Sneed, who I don't know if any of you have ever heard this about Sam Sneed, for those of you who know who he is. I watched him kick the door jam. I was told he could do that. He was 70 years old. I could get my foot about knee high, and he could get his foot up to kick the door jam. Amazing, amazing man. That was an amazing day, an amazing memory.
Well, that's a great story. That is a fabulous story. You know, we've heard a lot about family in so far tonight, and I mean, look, 3 tables full of family and friends. It's fabulous for you, but your family's been involved in your golf career in one way or another all along the way, and you even twisted your brother's arm to caddy for you for quite some time on the LPGA Tour.
Yes, my young brother Chris Gahn, who has been the superintendent at Eugene Country Club for how many years, Chris? 25. 25 years, retired recently. But Chris, as he was in his college years, I really didn't get to know him because he's 9 years younger than I am, and I left for college, so he was 9 years old. I asked if he would be interested in caddying for me during the summer, and he did it for 3 years. So after the first few tournaments, and the caddies, they don't make a ton of money, especially if their player is struggling a little bit. So they stay in a room where he had 2 other fellows staying in the room. And he came to me after maybe 3 weeks, and he said, Cathy, do you think you could try just a little harder? I said, what? Where is that coming from? What are you talking about? He said, well, the deal is, I'm in the room with 2 other guys, and the player who shoots the highest score, that guy is on the floor. And he said, I haven't been in a bed in 3 weeks. He also unkindly said to me, because the superintendent works on weekends, right? He said, when I was caddying with you, it was the best job I ever had. I never had to work weekends.
I can tell this is a close family. This is fabulous. I want to ask you about your career at Georgia State. It has been amazing, 20 years almost. And in talking to the SID back there, he could not stop talking about Cathy Mant, who brought the championships to Georgia State after having nothing to show for their golf program up until the time you arrived. So, what's your secret?
I don't know, but I love golf and I love working with young people. And we were able to recruit some kids that came in and show them that we loved them and work with them. And they worked their tails off. And we just had a great time together and still do, although I must say that I just announced my retirement this last Monday. So I'm going to say goodbye to part of that. But I will be a supporter and be there for forever to help any of those kids.
Mike Holmes is that SID's name, and he was telling me how he helped. What he saw was you took each individual kid and really treated them as an individual. What works for one doesn't work for all. When it comes to motivation, how do you analyze that with a young person?
Well, I think it's just learning to find out who they are as a person and believing in them and showing them that you care and you love them and being there for the special moments when they need somebody. I mean, as a coach, you're there for everything. It's not just about golf. In fact, golf is probably one of the smaller parts of it. It's being a mom for me, away from their mothers, because our kids come, mostly international kids have been playing on my team. It's being there for them, for everything, just life and helping them and helping set them on the right way, and I've loved every moment of it.
You had some international players who were a long way from home, so you had to really fill in that homesickness gap there for them too, didn't you?
Yeah, we do. And so we've opened up our homes to our kids when the rules allow, have them for family dinners, and include our daughter and her children when they're there, so it feels like being home.
As you've anticipated this night, what's been kicking around in your head, either memories or people that you remember having an impact, or whatever you want to say this group is here to honor you tonight?
Thank you. You know, going back when I was approached about this wonderful honor, I had to go back and look through scrapbooks that my mom had saved, and looking the memories from 1965 and on. With people like Joanne Washam and Ann Swanson, we played against each other. We stayed at each other's homes, and I look at that, and then I look at some of the people that I've met that have influenced my life from the Pacific Northwest, like Dean Eilenfeld and Liz Culver and Christine Jones and Peggy Conley, and I'm going to forget some because I wrote them down, and I really want to acknowledge all of them. But I look at the great times that we had and what a wonderful game it is that we play, and I'm so thankful that my parents believed in me after that little problem with that first tournament, that they allowed me to do it. And I'm the oldest of 7 children, and so I really feel privileged to have had that opportunity to be away and travel the little bit that I got to in the early days. It's been a real blessing, and something came to mind with me that, you know, have you ever thought about what your life would be if you hadn't met that person or those people in your life? I wouldn't change one thing, other than maybe making a few more putts. But I wouldn't change a thing. I feel very blessed to have had almost a full circle in my career as a young junior golfer, to college player, to professional player, to teacher, to college coach. And now as I step away from that, I want to go back and help those young kids that, like I was, and help them follow the dream, help them reach their dream with the game of golf.
Well, those kids would be very, very lucky to have Cathy Mant come and put a hand on their shoulder and help them out and help them down the right road. Cathy, thank you very much.